The serpent postured. The honey badger answered. Then the humans stepped in part 1. The gathering storm, the space station called. Helix 9 floated in the darkness between 3 star systems. It was a place where different species came to talk, to trade, and sometimes to threaten each other. Today, 40 different alien races had sent their representatives here for the Galactic Trade Summit. The air inside smelled strange because so many different creatures breathed, so many different gases. Tai-Su Park stood near the back of the Great Hall and watched everything with careful eyes. He was a human diplomat, 52 years old, with gray hair in his temples and a face that rarely showed what he was thinking. Next to him stood Yuna Kim, his young assistant. She was 28 and very smart, always taking notes on her small datapad. Behind them both stood Dongwu Li, the security chief. He was a big man with broad shoulders and hands that had seen combat. He said very little but missed nothing. "This is my first summit," Yuna whispered to Tai-Su. "I did not expect so many species." Tai-Su nodded slowly. "The galaxy is bigger than most humans imagine. We are still new here, still learning. Humanity had made contact with alien life only 30 years ago. In the long history of the galaxy, humans were like children who had just learned to walk. Many species did not take them seriously. Tai-Su was fine with that. He had learned that being ignored could be useful. The center of the Great Hall was where the important species sat. The biggest chairs belonged to the Silrith. They were serpent creatures, each one as long as 3 men lying end to end. Their scales were dark green and shimmered like oil on water. They had no legs, only powerful coils that could crush metal. Their eyes were yellow with black slits, and when they spoke, their forked tongues flickered in and out. The leader of the Silrith was called High Coil Vesith. He was the largest of his kind that Tai-Su had ever seen. When he moved, the floor vibrated. When he spoke, everyone listened. Not because they wanted to, but because they were afraid not to. On the opposite side of the hall sat a much smaller group. There were only 5 of them, and they barely reached Tai-Su's waist in height. These were the Korani. They looked like the honey badgers of Earth, with thick fur, small ears, and sharp claws. Their eyes were black and full of fire. The Korani were famous across the galaxy for one thing. They never backed down from a fight. Ever. No matter how big the enemy was. No matter how bad the odds were. Their leader was called Bristle Chief Korra. She was female, with silver streaks in her dark fur that showed her age and experience. She sat with her arms crossed and stared at the Silrith without blinking. Haiko Vesith began to speak. His voice was like silk wrapped around a knife. "Friends," he said, though his tone made it clear he considered no one in the room a friend. "The trade routes through the Outer Rim have been chaotic for too long. Ships are lost. Goods are stolen. This cannot continue. The Silrith propose a solution. We will take control of these routes. We will provide protection. We will bring order." Tai-Su leaned toward Yuna. "He means they will take control and charge everyone to use space that belongs to no one." Yuna nodded and kept typing on her datapad several smaller species. In the room shifted nervously. They used those trade routes. If the Silrith controlled them, they would have to pay whatever price the Serpents demanded. Or they would have to find new routes. Or they would simply die. Bristle Chief Korra stood up. She was so short that she had to stand on her chair to be seen properly. "The Korani reject this proposal," she said. Her voice was rough like gravel. "The Outer Rim belongs to everyone. The Silrith have no right to claim it." The room went silent. No one spoke against the Silrith. No one. High Coil Vesith turned his massive head toward the small creature who had dared to challenge him. His yellow eyes narrowed. Slowly he began to uncoil himself. He rose higher and higher until he towered over everyone in the room. This was the Silrath intimidation display. It had made entire species surrender without a single shot being fired. "Little Korani," Vesith hissed, "you are far from home. You are few in number. Perhaps you should think more carefully before you speak." Cora did not move. She did not look away. Her black eyes stared directly into his yellow ones. "The Korani have thought carefully," she said. "We have decided that we are not afraid of snakes." A gasp went through the hall. Taesu felt Dongwu tense beside him. Vesith's tongue flickered rapidly. This was a sign of anger among the Silrath. "You would risk war? Over trade routes?" "We would risk war over freedom," Cora replied. "The Korani have never been slaves. We will never be slaves. If you want our submission, you will have to take it from our dead bodies." The tension in the room was so thick that Taesu could feel it pressing against his skin. Other delegations began to leave quietly, not wanting to be caught in the middle of what might come next on. Yun looked at Taesu with worried eyes. "Should we leave too?" Taesu watched the confrontation for a long moment. The serpent, tall and terrible. The small furry creature refusing to bend. "No," he said quietly. "I think we should stay and see what happens next." He did not know it yet, but that decision would change everything. The serpent postured. The honey badger answered. Then the humans stepped in part two. The escalation. The next day was worse. Taesu woke early in his small room on the station. He had not slept well. The confrontation between the Silrath and the Korani had ended without violence, but everyone knew was not over. It was only beginning. He found Yuna already awake in their shared workspace. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. Her datapad was full of messages and reports. "What did you find?" Taesu asked. Yuna turned the screen toward him. "The Silrath have been busy during the night. They visited every small delegation on the station. They told them the same thing. Choose a side. Stand with the Silrath, or be considered an enemy." Taesu sat down heavily. "Pressure tactics. They want to isolate the Korani." "It is working," Yuna said. 3 delegations have already left the station. 4 more are packing their things right now. No one wants to be caught between a serpent and a honey badger. Dongwu entered the room. His face was serious, more serious than usual. He closed the door behind him and checked to make sure no one was listening. "I have worse news," he said. "I hacked into the station's long-range sensors last night. Do not ask how. There are Silrath warships waiting just outside sensor range. 12 of them. Heavy cruisers with enough firepower to destroy this station 10 times over." Yuna's face went pale. "This is not just about trade routes." "No," Dongwu agreed. "This is conquest. They plan to take control of the Outer Rim by force. The summit is just a show, a way to make it look legal." Taesu stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the stars. Somewhere out there, warships were waiting. Somewhere out there, the Silrath were planning to crush anyone who stood in their way. "Have they noticed us?" he asked. "The humans?" Dongwu nodded slowly. "They have been monitoring our communications. Not just ours. Everyone's. But they seem particularly interested in what we say and do." "Why?" Yuna asked. "We are nobody. Humanity has no power in this part of space. That is what worries me," Dongwu said. "If they are watching us, it means they are planning something. Something that involves us whether we want it or not." Taesu received a message on his personal communicator. It was from Earth, from his superiors. He read it twice to make sure he understood. "Orders from home," he said quietly. "We are told to stay out of this. Do not get involved. Humanity is too new, too weak, too vulnerable. We cannot afford to make enemies of the Silrith. Yuna looked relieved. Dongwu looked disappointed. So we do nothing? Dongwu asked. We watch the serpents crush the Karani and pretend it is not our problem? Before Taisu could answer, they heard a commotion in the hallway outside. Shouting. The sound of something hitting the floor. They rushed out to see what was happening. In the corridor, a Silrith guard stood over Bristle Chief Korra. The small Karani was on the ground. The guard was laughing, a hissing sound that made Taisu's skin crawl. Clumsy little creature, the guard said. You should watch where you walk. You might get stepped on. It was obvious what had happened. The guard had knocked her down on purpose. It was an insult. A challenge. The kind of thing that started wars. Korra got to her feet slowly. Her fur was bristling, standing up all over her body. Her claws extended, sharp as knives. She looked up at the guard, who was 5 times her size. Then she moved. She was so fast that Taisu barely saw it happen. She leaped at the guard's leg and bit down hard. There was a terrible crunching sound. The guard screamed. When Korra pulled away, there was a hole in his armor. Her teeth had gone straight through metal. She spat on the floor and walked away without looking back. She did not run. She did not hurry. She simply walked, as if nothing important had happened. The guard collapsed, clutching his wounded leg. Other Silrith came running. They hissed with fury when they saw what had happened. Taisu grabbed Yuna and Dongwu and pulled them back into their room. He closed the door and locked it. This is going to get very bad very quickly, he said. For the rest of the day, the station was on edge. The Silrith demanded that Korra be arrested and punished. The Karani refused. They said she had defended herself against an unprovoked attack. The station authorities, who were neutral aliens called the Helix Council, did not know what to do. They had never seen anything like this. More delegations fled. By evening, only a handful remained. The Silrith, the Karani, a few others who had nowhere else to go, and the humans. Taisu sat alone in his room that night. He thought about his orders. Stay out of it. Do not get involved. It was the safe choice. The smart choice. But he kept seeing Korra's face as she walked away from the guard. No fear, no hesitation. Just absolute refusal to submit. He thought about Earth, about human history, about all the times people had said it was safer to stay quiet, to not get involved, to let someone else deal with the problem. He thought about how often that choice had led to disaster. Finally, he made a decision. He picked up his communicator and sent a message to Bristle Chief Korra. I would like to meet with you privately. I think we should talk. The reply came back almost immediately. Fine, come to my quarters. Come along. If you try anything, I will bite your face off. Taisu smiled despite himself. At least she was honest. He told Dongwu where he was going. The security chief wanted to come with him, but Taisu refused. She said alone. I will respect that. She threatened to bite your face off, Dongwu pointed out. I have been threatened by worse, Taisu said. Besides, I do not think she will hurt me. She is angry, but she is not stupid. He walked through the quiet corridors of the station until he reached the Karani section. 2 guards stood outside, small but fierce-looking. They let him pass without a word. Korra was waiting for him inside. She sat on a low chair, her black eyes watching him carefully. Human, she said, your species usually runs from trouble. Why are you still here? Taisu sat down across from her. Because I think you need help, and I think we can give it to you. Korra laughed. It was a harsh sound, like rocks grinding together. Help? From humans? Your kind has no fleet, no weapons, no power. What could you possibly offer us? Taisu leaned forward. Something the Silrath will never expect. The serpent postured. The honey badger answered. Then the humans stepped in part 3. The unlikely alien Sakura stared at Teisu with suspicion in her black eyes. Her claws tapped against the arm of her chair, making small clicking sounds. Something the Silrath will never expect, she repeated. That sounds like pretty words with no meaning. Speak clearly, human. I do not have patience for games. Teisu nodded. He had expected this reaction. The Karani were direct creatures. They did not like tricks or clever speeches. They wanted truth, plain and simple. First, he said, let me tell you a story. About my home planet. Cora made a sound of annoyance. I did not agree to meet you for story time. Please, Teisu said. It is important. And short. She waved her paw impatiently. Fine, talk, but make it quick. Teisu took a breath. On Earth, there is an animal. A small creature with thick fur and sharp claws. We call it the honey badger. It is not very big. Most predators are larger. Much larger. But the honey badger does not care. It fights lions. It fights leopards. It fights snakes. It gets bitten by venomous snakes that would kill any other animal, and it simply sleeps off the poison and then kills the snake anyway. Cora's ears perked up slightly. She was listening now. The honey badger is famous on Earth, Teisu continued. Not because it is the strongest. Not because it is the fastest. But because it refuses to give up. It refuses to run. It refuses to surrender. No matter what. He paused and looked directly at her. When I first saw the Karani, I thought of the honey badger immediately. Your species reminds us of something we admire very much. Cora was quiet for a moment. Her fur had relaxed a little. She was no longer bristling. Pretty story, she said finally. But stories do not win wars. The Silrath have 12 warships out there. We have 2 small transport vessels. When the fighting starts, we will lose. We know this. We accept it. But we will not surrender. What if there was no fighting? Teisu asked. Cora laughed bitterly. The Silrath want our submission. We will not give it. There will be fighting. Not if we change the rules of the game, Teisu said. He leaned forward. The Silrath are playing the old game. The game of strength and fear. They show their power. Others submit. It has worked for them for thousands of years. But humans, we know a different game. What game? Teisu smiled. The game of information. He pulled out his datapad and showed her a screen full of text and images. My assistant Yuna has been working all night. She has gathered evidence. Recordings of Silrath communications planning the blockade of your homeworld. Testimony from species they have conquered before. Economic data showing how their protection really works. It is all here. Everything they want to keep secret. Cora looked at the screen with growing interest. Evidence of what? Everyone knows the Silrath are bullies. Yes, Teisu agreed. Everyone knows. But no one talks about it. No one puts it in front of the entire galaxy and says, look at this. Look at what they are doing. Look at what they plan to do. He pulled up another screen. Humans are very new to the galaxy. We do not have big fleets or advanced weapons. But we have something else. We have reporters. Thousands of them. Millions of them. People whose entire job is to find information and share it with everyone. Reporters? Cora looked confused. Journalists. News organizations. In human space, information moves faster than anything else. When something happens, everyone knows about it within hours. When someone does something wrong, they cannot hide it. The whole galaxy will know. Cora slowly began to understand. You want to tell everyone what the Silrath are doing. Not just tell them. Taesu said. We want to make it impossible for anyone to ignore. We want to make it so loud, so visible, that the Silrath cannot pretend anymore. Right now, they can bully small species because no one is watching. What if everyone was watching? Cora stood up from her chair and walked to the window. She looked out at the stars for a long moment. And what good does watching do? She asked. People will know the Silrath are evil. So what? They will still have 12 warships. They will still have power. Taishu stood up and joined her at the window. Power comes in many forms. The Silrath are strong militarily, but they trade with hundreds of species. Their economy depends on that trade. What happens if that trade stops? Why would it stop? Because humans buy things, Taesu said. Lots of things. From everyone. We are the most active consumers in this sector of space. Human corporations have contracts with Silrath merchants worth billions. What if those contracts ended? What if humans refused to buy anything from the Silrath until they changed their behavior? Cora turned to look at him. Her expression had changed. She was no longer suspicious. She was calculating. You would damage your own economy to help us. Yes, Taesu said simply. Because it is the right thing to do. And because humans are very good at making things everyone's problem. We cannot sit quietly while injustice happens. It is not in our nature. Why? Cora asked. Why would you take this risk? You could stay silent. Stay safe. The Silrath have not threatened you. Taishu thought about the question carefully before answering. Because my grandmother used to tell me something. She said that if you watch someone being hurt and do nothing, you are helping the one who hurts them. Silence is a choice, and I choose not to be silent. Cora was quiet for a long time. Then she did something unexpected. She reached up and touched Taesu's hand with her paw. It was a gesture of trust among the Korani. Very rare for them to show to outsiders. Human, she said, your species is strange. You have no claws, no armor. Your teeth are flat and useless. But there is something in you that I respect. She pulled her paw back and crossed her arms. Very well. Tell me more about this plan of yours. I want to hear every detail. Taesu smiled and sat back down. They talked for hours. By the time the station's artificial sunrise began, they had the beginning of a strategy dot. As Taesu left the Korani quarters, he found Yuna waiting for him in the corridor. She looked worried. The Silrath know you visited her, Yuna said. They are asking questions. Let them ask, Taesu replied. We are just getting started. He looked back at the door behind him, then out toward the stars where the Silrath warships waited. The Serpent had no idea what was coming. The Serpent postured. The Honey Badger answered. Then the humans stepped in part 4. The human way the morning of the final summit session arrived. The great hall was nearly empty now. Most of the smaller species had fled during the night. Only a few delegations remained, sitting nervously in their chairs, waiting to see what would happen. High Coil Vesith entered the hall with his full delegation. 20 Silrath warriors accompanied him, their scales gleaming under the lights. They moved like a dark river flowing across the floor. Vesith took his place at the center of the room and rose to his full, terrifying height. The Korani entered next. Just 5 of them. Cora led the way with her head held high. She did not look afraid. She never looked afraid. The remaining delegations watched in silence. Everyone expected a confrontation. Everyone expected violence. The Silrath guards had their weapons ready. Then the humans entered. Taesu walked calmly to his seat, followed by Yuna and Dongwu. Several other human staff members came behind them, carrying equipment. Data pads, communication devices, recording equipment. Vesith's yellow eyes narrowed. What is this, human? Why do you bring machines to a diplomatic meeting? Taesu did not answer. He simply took his seat and waited. The session began. Vesith spoke first, as he always did. His voice filled the room like poison filling a glass. The time for discussion is over, he announced. The Surith have been patient. We have offered peace and protection. We have been met with insults and violence. He looked at Korra when he said this. Now we require a formal response. Accept our terms or face the consequences. The room was silent. The small delegations that remained looked at each other with fear in their eyes. No one wanted to speak. Then Taesu raised his hand. Vesith turned toward him with obvious annoyance. The human delegation has not been part of these discussions. You have no right to speak. I believe I do, Taesu said calmly. Under Section 7 of the Galactic Summit Agreement, any delegation may present evidence relevant to ongoing negotiations. I have evidence I would like to present. Vesith's tongue flickered rapidly. What evidence? Taesu stood up and walked to the center of the room. He carried a small device in his hand. Behind him, Yuna activated a large display screen. This evidence, Taesu said. The screen lit up with recordings. Audio, video, documents, all of it obtained by Yuna over the past 3 days. The first recording showed Silrith commanders discussing the warships positioned outside the station. They talked about attack plans, about which species to destroy first, about how to make examples of those who resisted. The second recording showed communications with conquered species, voices begging for food, for medicine, for mercy, and Silrith administrators laughing at their requests. The third set of materials showed economic data, how the Silrith protection actually worked. Species that accepted their terms paid 90% of their income in fees. Those who could not pay were enslaved. Those who resisted were exterminated. Vesith's scales rippled with fury. These recordings are false, fabricated by our enemies. They are not false, Taesu said. They are verified. We have traced every communication, confirmed every source. This evidence will stand up to any examination. It does not matter, Vesith hissed. Even if it is true, so what? We are strong. The galaxy knows this. Your little presentation changes nothing. Taesu smiled. It was a small smile, but Vesith saw it and did not like it. You are right, Taesu said. Showing this evidence here, to this room, changes nothing. But I am not just showing it to this room. He nodded to Yuna. She pressed a button on her datapad. As of 30 minutes ago, Taesu said, this evidence has been transmitted to every major news organization in human space. Right now, billions of humans are watching these recordings. They are reading these documents. They are learning what the Silrith really are. Vesith went very still. In the next few hours, Taesu continued, human journalists will contact every trading partner the Silrith have. They will ask questions. They will investigate. They will write stories. And humans are very, very interested in stories about bullies. Yuna stood up. I have already received confirmations from 12 major human corporations. They are suspending all contracts with Silrith merchants. They are pulling their investments. By this time tomorrow, the economic damage will be in the billions. Vesith's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. You would hurt yourselves to attack us? You would damage your own economy? Yes, Taesu said simply. Humans are funny that way. We care about things beyond money. We care about right and wrong. And when we see something wrong, we make noise. A lot of noise. Enough noise that everyone in the galaxy will hear it. The other delegations in the room were staring at the humans with a mixture of shock and amazement. This was not how galactic politics worked. You did not attack powerful enemies with information. You did not sacrifice your own interests for strangers, but the humans did. Veseth's guards began to move forward. Dongwu stepped in front of Taisu immediately. His hand rested on the weapon at his side. "I would not recommend violence," Dongwu said quietly. "There are cameras in this room. Everything is being broadcast. If you harm us now, the entire galaxy will see it." Veseth looked around the room. He saw the recording devices. He saw the lights on Yuna's equipment that showed live transmission. He saw the trap that had closed around him without him even noticing. "This is not how things are done," he said. His voice was no longer smooth. It was rough with barely contained rage. "It is how humans do things," Taisu replied. "We do not have the biggest fleet. We do not have the most powerful weapons. But we have voices. Millions of them. And we are not afraid to use them." Korra had watched all of this in silence. Now she stepped forward to stand beside Taisu. "The Karani accept the humans as allies," she announced. "Their method is strange to us. But it works. And anyone who stands with them stands with us." Veseth looked from the human to the Karani. Two weak species. Two prey animals. And somehow, together, they had created a weapon he could not fight. He could destroy this station. He could kill everyone in this room. But he could not stop the information that was already spreading across the galaxy. He could not silence millions of human voices. For the first time in his long life, Ikoil Veseth did not know what to do. Taisu watched the Serpent's confusion with quiet satisfaction. The game had changed, and the humans had changed it. Now everyone would have to learn the new rules. The Serpent postured. The Honey Badger answered. Then the humans stepped in. Part 5. The New Balance. 3 days passed after Taisu's presentation in the Great Hall. They were the strangest 3 days the station had ever seen. Ikoil Veseth did not attack. He did not order his warships to destroy the station. He did not harm the humans or the Karani. Instead, he retreated to his quarters and spoke to his homeworld through encrypted channels for hours at a time. The news from human space was devastating for the Silrath. Yuna brought daily reports to Taisu. Every report was worse than the last. Human corporations were canceling contracts by the hundreds. Trade ships were turning around mid-journey, refusing to deliver goods to Silrath ports. Protests were happening on human colony worlds, with people holding signs that said things like, "No trade with tyrants," and "The galaxy is watching." The economic damage is now estimated at 15 billion credits, Yuna told Taisu on the second day. And it is still growing. "How are the Silrath responding?" Taisu asked. "They are confused," Yuna said with a small smile. "Their diplomats keep asking the same question. Why? Why would humans hurt themselves to help strangers? They do not understand." Dongwu laughed. It was the first time Taisu had heard him laugh in days. "Good. Let them be confused. Confused enemies make mistakes." On the third day, something unexpected happened. Ikoil Veseth requested a private meeting with Su. Taisu went alone, against Dongwu's strong advice. He found Veseth in his quarters, looking smaller than before. The great serpent was still enormous, still dangerous. But there was something different in his yellow eyes. Something Taisu had never expected to see there. Uncertainty. "Human," Veseth said. "I do not understand your species." "Many do not," Taisu replied calmly. Veseth's coil shifted on the floor. "I have ruled through strength for 200 years. I have conquered 12 species. I have destroyed 5 more that refused to submit. This is how power works. The strong take. The weak give. This is the natural order." "Perhaps," Taisu said. "But humans do not always follow the natural order. Why?" Veseth demanded. Why do you care about the Karani? They are nothing to you. They cannot help you. They cannot make you rich or powerful. There is no logical reason for what you have done. Taishu thought about the question. He had asked it to himself many times over the past few days. On Earth, he said finally, we have a saying. All it takes for evil to win is for good people to do nothing. We choose to do something, even when it costs us, even when there is no reward, because that is who we are. Veseth stared at him for a long moment. Then he made a sound that Taisu had never heard from a Silrath before. It might have been a sigh. Your species is dangerous, Veseth said. Not because you are strong, but because you make others dangerous. The Karani alone were an annoyance. The Karani with human support. That is something different. We did not give them weapons, Taisu pointed out. You gave them something worse. You gave them hope. You showed the galaxy that the strong can be challenged, that there are other kinds of power. Veseth's tongue flickered. This will cause chaos. Other species will follow your example. Perhaps, Taisu said, or perhaps it will cause balance. A galaxy where the strong cannot simply take whatever they want. Veseth was silent for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was different, quieter, almost respectful. The Silrath withdraw from the Outer Rim negotiations. We will not pursue control of the trade routes. Our warships will return home. Taisu kept his face calm, but inside he felt a wave of relief. That is a wise decision. It is a necessary decision, Veseth corrected. We cannot fight an enemy we do not understand. Not yet. He looked directly at Taisu. But know this, human. We will learn. We will adapt. The next time we meet, we will be ready for your tricks. We will be ready too, Taisu replied. He left Veseth's quarters and walked back to the human section of the station. Yuna and Dongwu were waiting for him. Well, Yuna asked. They are withdrawing, Taisu said. It is over. Dongwu let out a breath he had been holding. Yuna's eyes filled with tears of relief. That evening, Bristle Chief Cora came to see Taisu. She stood in the doorway of his room, her black eyes studying him carefully. Human, she said. My people want to thank you. No thanks are necessary, Taisu replied. Cora walked into the room and sat down across from him. I watched you through the whole thing. The confrontation with Veseth. The broadcasts. The negotiations. I watched how you fought. We did not fight, Taisu said. Not in the way you mean. No, Cora agreed. You did something stranger. You did not use your claws. You did not use your teeth. You used your voice. Your words. What did you call them? Reporters. Taisu nodded. Cora's whiskers twitched in the Karani smile. The Karani have always believed that strength is the only power. We were wrong. There are other kinds of strength. She paused. My government wants to open formal relations with humanity. Trade. Cultural exchange. Perhaps even alliance. We would be honored, Taisu said. Cora stood up to leave. At the door, she stopped and looked back. I asked you before what your approach is called. Running away is cowardice. Fighting is courage. What do you call what you did? Taisu thought about it. We call it making noise. When something is wrong, we talk about it. We write about it. We share it with everyone we can. We make it impossible to ignore. And this works? Not always, Taisu admitted, but often enough. Cora nodded slowly. The Karani will remember this. We will tell stories about the humans who defeated the Serpent with nothing but words. She left. Taisu stood at his window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Silrath warships were turning around, going home. Somewhere out there, human journalists were writing stories that would be read by billions. Somewhere out there, other species were learning that there was a new player in galactic politics. A strange species that did not fight the old way. A species that made everything loud and complicated and impossible to ignore. Yuna appeared at his side. "What happens now?" Taesu smiled. "Now we go home. We report to our government. We try to explain what we did and why. Will they be angry?" "Probably," Taesu said. "We disobeyed orders. We involved humanity in a conflict we were told to avoid. There will be consequences. Do you regret it?" Taesu watched his ship departing the station, heading toward the distant stars. "No," he said. "Not for a moment. This is what humans do. We see something wrong, and we cannot stay silent. It is our greatest weakness and our greatest strength." The serpent had postured. The honey badger had answered. And when the humans stepped in, everything had changed. Not through force, not through violence, but through something the galaxy had never seen before. The power of a species that simply refused to shut up. And that, perhaps, was the most dangerous power of all.